All right, Shalom. I want to start out by giving our praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. I like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who I learned this truth from. And I like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. And today is Tuesday, but it's going to be another episode of Missile Monday. So today is April 15th, 2026, Missile Monday, and I have this article from The Economist. It says, if it starts, a nuclear arms race will be unstoppable. So I'm just going to read, just a little bit of this article because I have to have a subscription, and then bring out a couple of scriptures. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying and straight to the point. It says, a sobering interview with the head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, or the IAEA. It says, the world stands on the brink of a nuclear arms race. If one can be avoided, a big reason will be this. Currently, the first country to start such a race risks paying a terrible price. Rogue states caught sprinting for a bomb face crippling sanctions and military strikes. Meanwhile, any halfway respectable country that flutes the Non-Proliferation Treaty, a legal ban on the creation of new nuclear armed powers, signed by 191 states, risks becoming a pariah with unknowable economic and diplomatic costs. And again, I have to have a subscription just to read this, entire article. But, just this little bit that was given is enough to know that, an arms race is going to take place because, again, the New START treaty, expired in February of this year, So if no other agreement, comes about, limiting or restricting, the use or development of nuclear weapons, then what, man? This is exactly what these different nations are going to do. They're going to be at an arms race, which, Russia and the United States are still at an arms race. They've been, at an arms race, since after World War II, but even these different, nuclear armed nations currently, are developing, more nuclear weapons, man. And this is what these different nations are going to do, which, I've said it before, but I personally believe, again, I'm not saying this fact, but I believe that, Iran does possess nuclear weapons. They just have them hidden. And if they don't, eventually, they most likely will get them, and why? Because it's biblical prophecy, because Iran is allies with Russia, and pursuing to Ezekiel 38, it says that Russia is going to be a guard unto its allies, Gog being Russia, and then it mentions who? Persia, which modern day Iran is Persia. It just changed its name, from Persia to Iran, But these different nations, this is what they're going to do. They're going to gear up, they're going to up their nuclear arsenal ultimately to come up against Babylon the Great, America, So I'm just going to grab a couple scriptures, I'm not going to make this one too long. So this is the book of Malachi, chapter 4, and verse 1, and it says, for behold, the day cometh that shall burn as an oven, and all the proud, yea, and all that do wickedly shall be stubble, and the day that cometh shall burn them up, saith the Lord of hosts, that I shall leave them neither root nor branch. And right, what is that day that is coming that is going to burn as an oven? World War III, once this, war kicks up into a full-scale hot war, because World War III has already started, and some speculate the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, was the start. But hell, Either way it goes, we know that, now that the U.S. and Iran are at war with each other, then that's just going to be a build-up, to that great, and dreadful day, as it says in the scriptures. So I'm going to get the book of Joel, chapter 3, and verse 9. It says, "Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords, and their pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong." And right, man, and this is what these different nations are doing. These different nuclear armed nations specifically, they're upping their nuclear arsenal. They're putting their resources toward their military or their military programs, or their nuclear programs, like you. And this is what these different nations are doing. I seen, something else where it says that, North Korea, yet again, is, upping its arsenal, so they're going to be developing more weapons. And just using North Korea alone as an example, that's a weak nation saying they're strong, right? Because before, North Korea didn't have nuclear missiles, Once upon a time, only America possessed this technology. Now what? Now these different nations have the very same thing, which is why they no longer fear America, because they know that if America tries to attack, then they'll be ready to defend themselves, So we're in a time of war right now, just like it says in Ecclesiastes 3 and 8, we're in a time of war, and the war drums are being beat. And this war between the USI, the United States of Israel, because we all know that this is who America serves, the little hats, serves them. We know that, again, this war, I kind of lost my train of thought, but we know that, this war between the United States, Israel, and Iran is not going to slow down by any means. That's, what I meant to say, kind of had a brain fart, Salakia. But, this war isn't going to slow down. Now, it may slow down, but overall, Iran wants war, but you have President Trump saying that, oh, well, there's been talks. Who are you talking to? Because Iran is saying that there have been no talks with them. They want to go to war. And just like I've made mention before, that Iran is not an easy nation to conquer. One, because of the terrain, the people of the land, they know the region pretty well. So United States soldiers will have a very hard time trying to, go in and, take the place over, and also because Iran, they're ranked number 16 of the world's, militaries, man. So they're not a weak nation by any means. They're not easy to conquer, and they're ready to go to war. They're letting it be known, which is why, again, the U.S. is now blocking, the Strait of Hormuz. They've got naval ships out there. They've got jets in the air, man. Again, we're in a time of war, man. Things are going to continue to heat up, but we know that, again, until the prophecy of the mark of the beast, which is spoken of in the book of Revelation, the 13th chapter, verse 16 to 18, is fulfilled, which the mark of the beast is the RFID microchip, then that's when this war is going to take place. Until then, things are going to continue to heat up, and things here in America are going to continue to get worse. Just the rise in fuel alone is having an effect on the economy. Again, as if things aren't already bad here, with the cost of living, the cost of food, and then adding fuel to that, it's all going to be a domino effect, you know. So let's get the book of Matthew chapter 24 and verse 6, and it says, "And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet." And right, man, we're still hearing of wars and rumors of wars, even though you don't hear about it as much. Russia and Ukraine are still at war with each other. China and Taiwan, India and Pakistan, and right now Israel and the United States. We're hearing of wars and rumors of wars, man, because again, World War III is looming, which we know that it's inevitable. It's going to happen regardless if people, want it to happen or not, but it's going to happen. Right now, it has to, continue to build up. Excuse me. It has to continue to build up until, these last couple prophecies come to pass, So I'm going to get the book of Revelation chapter 11 and verse 14. And it says, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." And right, we can clearly see that again, this third woe, meaning World War III, is coming quickly, because it speaks about three woes in the book of Revelation. The first woe being World War I, the second woe being World War II, and the third woe being World War III, which the world in this current generation is going to see. People didn't think that this was going to happen in their lifetime, and why not now, So we're going to see these things take place, So I'm going to end it with this. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 9 and verse 15. It says, "And the four angels were loosed, which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men." And right, when you read in Revelation, the 7th chapter, it speaks of the four angels, which these are four literal angels holding back the four winds, which the four winds represent the destruction that is going to take place here in America, and various parts of the world as well, And just like it says, it's a set time when it's going to happen. There's a particular hour, day, month, and year, that the Heavenly Father has planned when He wants these things to come to pass, because it's going to happen. And it says what? To slay the third part of men. And who's the third part of men? Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, the wicked, if you will, because there are three classes of men on the earth. You have the sons of God, which today are the biblical Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans from the tribe of Judah all the way down to the tribe of Issachar. You have the sons of men, which are the different heathen nations, and you have the sons of the wicked, which is who? Edom. You're the third part of men, and that's who this coming destruction is for. It's for you, But you will have 2/3 of the nation of Israel that are going to get caught up in this destruction, and then you heathen nations that are still over here, you're just collateral damage, So that's it for this one. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakodash. I'd like to give double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from, and I'd like to say peace and salutations unto the hopefully elect. Till next time I say, Shalom.